Alright, still sitting here, sitting in the truck outside the yard, waiting here in Stockton, California, Wednesday, December the 18th, 2024. So, want to talk about this ELD. When I was first driving with it, I had, apart from the PC bullshit which you had to explain to me, I looked at it compared to the mini mega carrier, the prick of a place I work with in Texas. In the earlier this year, my mentor and I worked there. It's like that was like they literally wanted to add all their routing information, and it was like rocket science in the freaking orientation classes. And all the average blue-collar truck drivers are all freaking out, even my mentor. And I was looking at it, and I had gone to college at associate degrees, so I've always had that kind of educational mentality. And particularly when I went to college, I was like, hey, I learned that they always teach you the wrong way, so you got to teach yourself the right way, so you got to kind of re-review this shit. So that's what I did in the orientation classes at this butthole company in Texas. I figured out they were really overcomplicating it because they wanted all their systems to be incorporated into the ELD, which is totally unnecessary because all you want to talk about is time with the ELD. You want and then maybe on separate apps on the tablet, you have the other parts. But essentially on the ELD itself, you just have time. And so when I first started trucking with this company, the one glory, the one little gem, was like, I don't know what it's called. It's, you know, they have different company names, all competing, all these tech companies. None of them have ever trucked before, by the way, so they're all different. There's no consistency, there's no merging, there's no windows for trucking like an all, you know, encompassing. It's simple, it's the same thing for everybody. It's all these stupid things. Every time you change companies, you got to go to a different ELD, and it's like you got to frigging around with it just to truck. And if you're a blue collar worker and you know that mentality, it's very, very hard. I'm lucky I was in a white collar profession, so I can figure it out pretty quickly. So I was kind of gratified about this ELD, and in my mind, because I'm always kind of like, I have these words I conjure up. So I called it the EAF ELD, easy as fuck ELD, because it was really, really simple. And that's just to myself, okay? But I want to talk about what's going on with this bloody thing. Because look what's happening. Look at the shift in the duty cycle on this thing, and look at the graph. You notice anything the whole time I've been talking? So here's the thing. I want to talk about the other day. I think it was the Sunday before I came into Richmond, when I was stuck up westbound coming towards Tucson. I was up in Benson where they had that massive accident, right? And I was sitting there for 2.5, 3 hours. Texted my boss and said it's totally screwed. I'm worried about this shit, and that it's going to ruin the load because I know how the guy rolls. I have no time, so I have no time. So the clock's going to burn out and I'm not going to make it to my desert center shutdown. But then it turns out I get to my desert center shutdown, and then I was discussing it. I wasn't quite sure, but I think the thing froze, and then I think the clocks were telling me I was good, and I was running off the clocks because that's what you do. You drive and you're looking at the circles, the wheels. And then you don't really look at the graph. And I got to my desert center shutdown, and went, man, did I actually do 16 hours on this clock? And the clock says it's okay. I've only got 5 minutes left on my drive, my shift clock. So everything's kosher on the wheels. But then the graph shows that I had a day that started and then went all the way through to 16 hours with no violations. Like, what the fuck is going on? He hasn't texted me because he's got logs on his graphs showing some guy did freaking 5 hours without a P, then 4 hours without a P. You know, as a super trucker, it's just drive, the single line. So he's always big on that. So it's been 2 days since that Sunday. He's never texted me back and says, oh, you had the violation. You went to Xtra. I was actually anticipating that I was going to have to explain to this third world mentality what the stupid EAF ELD wasn't easy as fuck at all. It was tricky as fuck, dodgy as fuck. Why did the damn thing freeze up there then for 3 hours when I was stuck at at exit 97 on the freaking interstate off duty? Freeze for a big chunk of that 3 hours. And I didn't really text him until about the 2.5 hour level. And he hadn't even called me on the Sunday. That's what I was saying. He hadn't said anything. He hadn't twigged, I guess. Yet somehow the thing managed to freeze. Just sitting there. The clock, the wheels, not the graph. Okay? So I wasn't aware. But it was aware under the covers, but not on the top. On the top of the hood. So I got through all that, and I haven't been chastised for it, and I haven't been punished for it. You know, I'm not going to DOT jail anytime soon. But let me go over this process, okay? It's 1:30. I got here outside the yard in Stockton at 10:30 this morning. Fussed around with the truck, did a few things. Checked the reefer was working, did the paperwork and dumped it over in the box over in the yard over there, outside, because I don't want to be stuck in the damn yard. Ready to go, hoping I'm going to get a load. Last week, he actually, by the time I texted him and by the time he finally got me a load, it was 1:10. He said go to Fowler Fresno. Same exact situation, same exact spot. Same exact deadhead from Benicia, and I deadheaded from Benicia this morning. This time it's 1:30. So since I texted him at 11:30, it's been literally 2 hours off duty since I texted him. Okay, and now it's 1:30 and I still don't have a load. So there's a duality to this. There's a goodness and the badness to this, because the badness is he's going to lay me over and go in the yard, and he's going to look at the truck and he's going to go, oh, you're done, whatever. And then the goodness is, well, maybe he will get me a load, maybe still working on it. I think there's a three-pronged goodness, badness theorem there, but I haven't kind of been able to jaggle it out of my brain. There's something else that was gnawing at me I wanted to say. But here's the deal. Look at the deal. Look at the graph. And I remember precisely, right, between the 8 and the 9 blocks, look down the bottom, 3 out of 4. I started my clock on duty. I went on pre-trip at 8:45 this morning in Benicia to do the deadhead drive clock, the second line up. To get here at the yard, you see that second row up and that point right down there at the bottom, right? At 10:30 this morning, as I had said, went off duty, then straight off duty. I've been off duty, whatever, coming up to 3-something hours. We look at it. Look at that. It says 2 hours and 58 minutes and 37 seconds I've been off duty, right? Look at the wheels. Well, the drive clock, she ain't ticking because I ain't driving. So I still got 9.5 hours. If I use up the shift clock and that works itself down, then eventually it'll get to the point where it matches the drive clock as it comes down on top of that drive clock, 9 hours and 26, and then I'll keep losing on the drive. That's part of how shit really sucks and frustrates in trucking, okay? You're 14 on your middle clock, but that goes down, and then you're 11 on your end clock, your drive clock. If your 14 comes down too far, then your drive just gets, the 14 is the upper bound. As it drops down, your drive ends up with nothing anyway. If you were just literally sitting there 14 hours, you'd end up with 0 drive clock, even though you hadn't driven at all. Okay? Got to go into this in a instructional video. But look at the other 2 clocks. right? Well, I don't, from memory, I get confused sometimes, but I don't think this thing ticks much, because I think it's got the drive and the on-duty in it. So if you drive, or you're pre-trooping, or you're checking in at a shipper consignee, that'll degrade, that'll drop down, okay? But the main thing is the middle one, okay? 12 hours and 11 and 02, okay? So I started at 8:45 a.m. this morning. Now it's 1:30 Pacific, so let's count that. 8:45 to 12, that's 3.25 hours. And then another 1.5 from 12 until 1:30. 3.25 plus 1.5. Let's break it up and add it up. 3.25, 1.5, 3 and a 1, and 1.25. 4 3/4 if you add each of those things separately and then add them back together. 4 3/4 hours from 8:45 this morning. Now the 14-hour shift clock, it starts and that's it. It's ticking no matter what. It's supposed to tick no matter what. 4 3/4 hours off 14. What does that give me? Well, take the quarter off the 4 3/4 and take the quarter off the 12, just to make it easy. 4.5 off. No. Scratch that. Let's start again. Off of 14, take 4 3/4. Take 4 off 14 is 10. Take another 3/4 off 10, that gives you 9.25 hours. So why does the shift clock still sitting and it's static? It's frozen at 12.25 hours. Difference between 12.25 hours and, what did I say, 9 3/4 hours, I think it was, something like that. Well, 9.25 hours, 3 hours, one of those. Roughly about 3 hours. Or 2.5 hours. 12.25 versus 9 3/4, 9.25, or 9.5, whatever I was saying. The point is, the graph says I've got much less, 2 to 3 hours less time than the bloody shift clock says, than the 14 hours says. The graph is the truth, but it's like I was up there in Benson, Tucson. It's not going to give me a violation. I could be 2-something hours over today if I start driving now. This thing starts ticking again. I could be doing another 16-hour day and the bloody shift clock is only going to start running. Like, why is it frozen now? It'll start running when I start driving again. The split sleeper berth bullshit, I don't do that. It's not pressed on. I don't understand how it works. It's confusing as fuck. They set it up so and they pretend that it's like the drivers can get more miles. But what it really means is the carriers can screw more out of you. They can kill you more. You get a bit of sleep here and a bit of sleep there. And so you're really screwed up biorhythmically, right? And it's really complicated to implement. And every time I visit it, in terms of research, I'm thinking, well, I need to extend this day. And I think then they say to me, no, it just helps you extend tomorrow or some shit. So it just helps the carriers run you through heavy bloody traffic, or basically get off the highway at heavy traffic in a city at 5:30 at night, sleep for a couple of hours. Then you can run again after the heavy traffic. So it helps the fucking carriers out. It doesn't help you. It's just complicated to understand, complicated to use, and it's just abuse. So I don't use the split sleeper berth. That's the point. I haven't switched it on. I don't know if the bloody Indian, the owner of this company, switched it on. But the point is, I'm sitting here waiting to see if I can get a load. I've been here since 10:30 this morning. Now it's 1:30. That's fucking 3 hours. And my shift clock's not even changing. So when I start going, I'll get those extra hours on top of my graph shift. It probably won't violate like it didn't violate. This easy as fuck ELD is turning into a dodgy as shit ELD, right? DAS ELD, coming up with some acronyms here. Don't even know what the name of the company is. And so, while I'm watching, as a driver, as a dumb driver, as I'm watching my wheels, my clocks, everything's good. in the normal world of trucking, I'm losing hours, I'm screwed. But for some reason right now, I'm not. The graph's going to come up. I'm going to end up with a freaking 16, 17 hour day. What if I'm able to roll today? If I get a load, I'm going to end up with that kind of a day. But it's not going to violate and everything's going to be good. So there's something really screwy going on here. I don't know what it is. Like I said, he didn't even respond to my text, and I was 2.5 hours sitting on the highway up there in Benson on Sunday, the 15th, I think it was, of December 2024. He didn't respond. I don't know whether, like, he checks all these logs so he can check if I'm freaking rolling or not. Does he sit in the office? Does he freeze the bloody clock for me? Because when I first started, I think it happened a couple of times, and I thought, well, this modern technology is a glitch, right? It's glitchy. And now it's screwed me up, and now I've got to count for my graph. It's only if you get it, if you pick it up. Because I haven't necessarily picked it up before. I finally picked it up after the fact on Sunday. Because I'm looking at the damn clocks. But I picked it up today because I've been sitting here long enough worried about whether this guy's going to run me or fire me. Right? Waiting for a fucking load for 3 hours, and I'm watching this shit. Actually, in fact, every now and again, the two will, on both of these two clocks, it's the middle one you're worried about, concerned about, it'll flick up to 3 seconds. There it goes. You see that? You see that? It went 2, then 3 on the shift clock. Then it goes back. So does this freeze it? Is it automatically set to it freeze it after a certain length of time? Does he sit in the office? Does he know, even though he doesn't respond to me, he's rude, he doesn't respond to me about anything, like sitting on a high for three hours, he just automatically knows where I am because he's got some kind of bullshit and he knows what's going on. Maybe he's got information from other drivers. Maybe he knows that damn load was delayed sitting on the interstate because of that accident ahead for 3 hours. And maybe today, he really, as I said, like my guardian angel said, he's scrapping for loads. Maybe he's scrapping for loads, but he doesn't want to screw me up, because last week what happened was, when I was sitting here, the clock didn't freeze. And then I got down to Fowler Fresno after I did the second deadhead, like I would do today if I started rolling to a shipper.